So, hi! So as you've probably seen, my art on YouTube normally looks like sketches or stylized-ish drawings, but recently I've been in a painterly mood, so I decided I was going to do some painting studies, having famous historical paintings as references. But me being me, I had to give it a twist because I cannot for the life of me take myself or my art seriously, and I decided to paint popular memes instead and turn them into art history paintings. I've been marinating this idea for a while now, and having to think about memes that surpassed the 2-week popularity has been hard because the really famous ones that everybody knows now read as outdated, and the really recent ones will be forgotten in like a week. Safe to say that the comment section will be filled with much more better memes, but alas, these are the ones I chose, and these are the ones you're gonna be stuck watching. Starting with none other than Sky Jackson posing for a beautiful portrait in what I can only assume are some liminal backrooms in Disney Channel. Since it really looks like she's posing for a portrait, I decided to take inspiration in the 1800 master painters of Central Europe, like Bouguereau, Hans Thoma, and others. It leans into realistic proportions, perfectly balanced renders with intentional brush marks, and fantastically captured subjects. Now, am I saying I'm capable of doing that? Obviously not. My art will look like a burning garbage bag in a microwave in comparison. But my audacity will still try to somewhat get close to that. Keyword being try. So, I started by trying to give the painting a decent composition to this portrait because that's always my biggest issue. Composition is my main weakness, and I will accept that in front of you. I'm not scared. After some Victorian fashion research, I translated Sky's outfit into more historical garbs and placed her in what looks like a rich Victorian house's liminal, trashy space equivalent. Little disclaimer here, I didn't want her to look exactly like Sky Jackson because I decided that if for some reason this came out looking decent, I could use it for my portfolio, so that's why it doesn't look like her, okay?
I know how to make portraits.
Well, after the sketch was laid down, I put some nice natural neon orange as a background to mimic the burnt sienna underpaintings that they usually put, to have a tonal shift to know what's being painted and what's not, and maybe to have some orange residue inside some crevices in between the brushstrokes, because I quite like it when I see that in paintings. And from here on out, it was just rendering away. I usually render by parts, so I will block in the face, then render some more details, and then move on to the next part like you see with the hair. And when I have more parts to work with, I can see the cohesion between them and detail them as needed. I really had a giant tunnel vision while focusing on the plaits and wrinkles of the clothes since I love to render that, but they are complicated. I tried to copy the design of Sky's dress into the painting by adding those square ribbon details on her chest. I also gave her the Victorian version of a v-neck, and I put her hair in bouncy curls, but trying to maintain that middle part slick back look. The hands, I am proud to say, didn't look terrible. They look pretty natural if I do say so myself. Guess it helps having a reference, who would have thought? And then the dress part was daunting at first, but I lost myself again in the cloth creases. It was actually really fun. And there's no shortage of references of this type of painting, so I had a good time researching as well. Look at her, how cheeky, showing some shoe. Scandalous! After mostly finishing the main figure, I started with the chair. I wanted to give her one of those wooden chairs filled with carved details and a good red cushy seat. The background I wanted to be mostly empty to mirror the original picture, but I decided to create some custom tiling in order to give a little more perspective to the picture. and after adding shadows it looked pretty decent. Then I created some elaborate wooden trim for the walls and shaded the whole environment until it looked right. And there we have it, the first painting done. I must say I really enjoyed doing this one, and the result is pretty nice considering I'm not a master painting from the 1800s. Changing the scenery a little, we're going to take it back to medieval times, baby, specifically to the Gothic period. I always enjoyed those barcode covers and the images that accompany them, so I did some research and decided upon those paintings on paper that go along scripts and sometimes are a little funky looking. Yeah, those ones. And what better test subjects to translate into a medieval illustration than a trial where a woman is getting accused of high treason or cheating. That's right, we're going to medievalify Miss Jackson. I owe Stan Twitter for this one to still be relevant. So, this type of illustration is more line-based, with fewer, flatter, bold colors, and curious shaped language. It was really hard to translate her despair face to this style, but I did my best. It was fun to turn her outfits and the courtroom into a medieval fantasy reimagination of the meme. I also wanted to include the two women behind her as it filled the composition better, and then it was a question of playing with lines and ornamentation. Put a Roman arch here, a castle over there, etc. You're going to have to trust the process on this one because the line art was looking way too digital and it was not giving medieval ink like at all. As I kept doing the line work, it kept messing with my mind thinking it looked sort of wrong, mainly because the colors are yet to be filled, but it was also because the lines are too consistent in texture and color. That's a thing that you will see me change later. I added some religious symbolism since most of the medieval art we see in scriptures, church walls and tapestries typically depict Christian values, stories or figures. And then when I finally started coloring, I gave myself a reduced palette consisting of the primary colors and some other earthly tones that appear in my references. After analyzing them though, I found that they did somewhat shade the flat colors, but in a way that in digital it looks really fake because it would look too airbrushed. So I spent literally 2 hours searching for chalk-like brushes that made a similar effect. It was really long. I also added some gold foil details everywhere I found it compelling to do so. At first it looked like I just stuck a glitter image in there, but I promise with the final layers it looks better. Then I just had to fill the rest of the illustration with flat colors and shade them as I saw fit. After putting some more details like bricks or cloth patterns and ornamentation on the edges, I decided to put the logo from the original video in the drawing, using of course Gothic calligraphy and writing it in Old English that I know nothing about, so feel free to correct me on that one. And finally, I added a shit ton of textures and effects to conceal the digitalness of it all, and I think it looks pretty decent considering how the line art alone looked. And finally, we are moving on to the next subject, which will be painted in the style of the Chiaroscuro, an Italian current that expanded throughout the Baroque, showcasing figures in high contrast with only a measly light to let us distinguish the objects that are hidden in the darkness. It was supposed to symbolize the faith shining through and entering life, but in my case it's more linked with the further development of the Chiaroscuro, tenebrism, where they didn't even want to create a sense of depth. Instead, they put the whole background black and just illuminated the figures so they were surrounded by darkness. And what better meme to use than a classic one? This little devious girl has all the ingredients to become a fantastic tenebrism painting. Watch me as I cry and I try to yet again copy a master painter while having the capability of a pigeon holding a straw. As you can see, I started with a canvas to fit the meme in a landscape position, but I didn't really have the energy to figure out how to make a burning house in this style, so portrait it is. I changed the light source from a backlight to a tiny candle that's in front of her, meaning I had to rearrange the whole lighting from the original image to give her an underlighting, which was, not easy. You're gonna have to trust the process again on this one too, because at some point this girl looks like a deformed version of Lily Rose Depp, and is certainly not what I was aiming for. This was by far the most complicated one of the three. The closeness of the subject meant I had to render the details on her face and her clothes far better than the first painting. And then the fucking hair, which was so weird in the picture. The dress was kind of enjoyable to paint, but why would I choose a tightly pleated outfit to put on her? The transparencies were hard enough already. I like challenging myself, but this one was quite the exercise on patience. From here on out, I just kept on tweaking little details to try to make the volume, the textures and the proportions correct. I know that in the first painting I said that I didn't want it to look like Sky Jackson. However, in here I did want to capture her likeness because I think it's the essence of the meme after all. And with some final texture details, I present the portraits of a lady on fire, with fire, or little pyromaniac demon child. Yeah, so anyways, with this questionable gallery created, I have definitely satiated the urge to paint. But I am glad to have put a little more effort into my paintings, and honestly I surprised myself while doing this. While they don't even come close to the original inspirations, I can feel a sense of pride on how I rendered these memes. So thank you so much for making it into the end of the video. I know this one was dense, but hopefully you liked it, and I will see you kiddies next time. Bye!